Welcome to Intersection Chats. I am Reme Mancera. I am a personal brand story strategist. I am here today with Gabrielle. She is going to talk with me about the intersection between personal brand story and authority for leaders. Thank you for accepting this invitation. Welcome, Gabrielle.
Thank you, Remy. I'm so excited to be here and have this conversation.
Yes. So please share a bit about what you do so people understand why we are talking about these topics today.
Yeah, so it was so cool when we met. Was it a year ago or a little over a year ago? Because we both work in the brand space and you're focused on personal brand storytelling. And I work with executives and entrepreneurs, generally innovators who have something that they want to share and they're in a moment of transition or expansion. And we work together to develop their core brand identity and their intellectual property so that they can build the audience that they need to bring their innovation to more people, to reach more people with their message.
Nice. So, in your experience, what is the connection between personal brand story and authority for leaders?
Yeah. When you have a story, you can connect to your audience. And so every leader that you think of, anyone that's, whether you would characterize them as charismatic or not, we are emotional creatures, and story is what allows us to have that emotion and that connection. And so if you were think about your teachers, right, in school, that's a really easy authority figure that everyone I think can relate to. And when you just have your teacher in a vacuum, it's just you and them in the classroom and you don't know any backstory. They're just the people at the front and you may or may not like them, and then you see them out in the wild and you're like, whoa, you have a life. Why are you in the food store? You're not in the right environment. And it's because there's no emotional connection that's made to them as a leader, in the sense that you and I work with people to build an audience and a relationship for their platform. So that's why stories are so important when you are in business.
Mm, yeah, 100%. I feel like sharing your story is one of the ways to build that connection. And I feel like it's of course you can share like your authority and what has been like the points in your career that are like showing that level of expertise and authority proof, but also the part that you just mentioned about the emotions and that human connection. I feel that that's like a way to build trust. And no matter how much authority you have, you need also the trust aspect for getting to people, especially if you are a business owner. It's like, okay, how people will trust that you are the right person to help them, that you are aligned in terms of values, and you are like your approach is the one that they feel like this the an approach that I feel can help me. So this I feel like trust, but also credibility. I feel there are a connection there because it's like when you share your story, there is context about who you are as a trustworthy, relatable person. But then when you are showing like aspects of your authority, that will bring that aspect of credibility. You have this recognition from outside, and that could also help others understand, okay, this is the person that can help me. Can I trust this person or not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. So, for what has been what have been in your experience, like the difference between those leaders that they have already somehow worked on their story and have clarity on how to share it, and those who haven't. How do you think that is impacting the way that others perceive them?
Yeah. So it comes back to the emotional connection again. And when you have clarity on your story, then you can develop relationships with people in ways that you can't when you don't know what the story is, because then you're leaning really heavily on how on the facts, let's say, and the logic and the rationality, and you're missing the holistic picture. And people want to connect with people, they want to follow people. And if something's not human, then it feels a little suspect. I mean, think of the way that we're all engaging with AI,
Mm,
and to varying degrees of comfort, and the ones that are the most uncomfortable are the most suspect of it being not human. And even people that are comfortable and are aware of the sensitivities, it's because, oh well, they're not human, so are they going to then take over our human world? So if it's not human, then we can't connect, and you really need to be able to connect with your audience in order to get them to follow you as a leader. And you mentioned trust and credibility earlier. That is also key in order for them to follow you as a leader. And one of the ways that you do that is by sharing your story. Another way that you can do that, that I work with my clients on, is to develop your intellectual property. You have some kind of a framework. And so your story is one way that you share your credibility. And another way is to share, okay, well, this is why I think your philosophy. This is why I think the way that I do. This is what's informed this philosophy. And it's not just, okay, I learned this in school, or I had these experiences with putting it in action, but also coming back to the story, like, it's informed by my experience. This particular event happened, and so from that moment on, there was a change,
mm,
or whether it was positive or negative. And so stories are such great illustrators, and they help. So they build your connection emotionally, and they also help, as you were saying, to build their credibility. And when you have this clarity from your audience, when they know why they can trust you, when they feel that they're connected to you, then they understand your brand better. And, branding is about repetition. It's strong when it's simple, when it's easy to grasp, and when people feel a connection. They're like, oh, yeah, this is for me, or that's not for me. Either way, it's good. And so when you have this clarity, you facilitate that repetition, you facilitate that understanding, and so your brand then is stronger versus being kind of murky, and then people aren't able to grasp onto anything at all.
mm. Yeah, and using like your framework, your concepts as a way to grow that authority and that positioning, I feel like even there you can use your story as a way to highlight that, like highlighting how unique is your approach, and maybe inside that framework or inside that concept there are something that is a way that you are in life, or something that is important to you and you bring to your work, but also is something that is show has been shown like in different moments in your life, and how you can use that story as a way to highlight that is a skill that you have, or it's an angle, like the way that you see things, and how that can is not just related to what you do now, but it's like the context of you as a person. um, I am thinking, for example, one client of mine, she is a leadership coach, and she helps visionary people, no? So when she was a child, she was like in this science fair, and she needed to put something together, and she combined like a remote control jeep from that they have in their house, with a rainbow doll, and she combined that and this, and she was trying to make something new and something innovative. So even if it's not like a milestone in your career, and it's not something that is showing related 100% of what we will think about authority, there are stories that you can use to highlight those skills, or those that like your point of view, as a way to be memorable. And of course then you connect that back to that framework, or that um, concepts that you want to highlight. And I feel like they can work together well, in the sense of they can support each other, if you will. So I would love to know if you have some examples, or something came to mind about these kind of situations where stories and frameworks somehow are related.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, two things came up. So one, yeah, I just want to reinforce that I do think that any kind of a story can be used when you're sharing your framework. It doesn't have to be, a lot of people, they think, oh, it has to be this big, like you said, milestone event or some pivotal turning point, something really clearly related. And that's not necessarily the case. Any kind of story is a helpful story. And so, what's most important is that you're able to explain, that you're able to illustrate. And so, it can be a big thing, it can be a small thing. The strength of it isn't in the size of the event. So, you graduating with top honors from your university, and based on this like dissertation that you wrote, you have all this experience because you spent 5 years like studying this thing. That's amazing. And also, what could be really strong and powerful story is like you cut yourself when you were pouring a glass of orange juice, and that the experience, I don't know, going to the emergency room or cleaning up the orange juice, the spill, and that connects to the way that you're considering your work, your framework, then you can share that story as well. So maybe in that instance, you have something about, I don't know, like the way ideas spread, and they're contained and then they're not contained. And that's a great illustration. Or pain
Mm.
that can happen unexpectedly because it's like a mundane day, and maybe you work with people that have chronic pain or different levels of pain, and then you have a way to to help them reframe their pain or something.
Mm.
And so it's like, oh, it's an unexpected moment in their day, and then they're overwhelmed by pain. And so then how do you shift with this
Mm.
unexpected thing that happens? So you can make that point, you can illustrate either your credibility to make that point or your empathy, because you've had something happen to you in your day, in your life as well. You can make that point with a big milestone event, or you can make it with a smaller everyday kind of event. And people aren't out here judging, oh, check, that's a good story, or X, that's not a good story. People aren't doing that. Again, it comes back to we are wanting to connect with one another, and we also want to evaluate, like, is this
Mm.
person someone that I want to connect with and stay connected with? And there are lots of different ways that you can do that. So I guess my point is just to encourage people to be less judgmental of themselves and what they think the stories are that they have to offer, and to be more open to what's possible.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And this idea of, in like the concepts of marketing, how people need to decide why this solution, why you as the provider of the solution, and why now. And I
Yeah.
feel like there in this question of why you, like authority will be something important, like how people feel that you are someone knowledgeable about this topic and that could be someone that they can trust. And then also your story, how they connect with you in that more human level, as we have been saying, in the sense of, yeah, this person is someone that especially if it's in front of new audiences, like you are
Hmm.
and it's like how you interact with those, how you start building that relationship with people, because maybe they don't have a lot of context about who you are, how you are using like your framework, explaining who you are, your authority levels, and also how you incorporate your story there.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, what do you think are like mistakes that people make when they are trying to claim their authority?
Hmm. Um, this goes back to the point that I just made about being judgmental about their presentation. So internally, they think I have to do XYZ in order to be taken seriously, or, oh, to be taken
Sorry.
seriously, or to, yeah, everything. That's it, to be taken seriously. And so they lean really hard in the direction of their professional, either their language, their tone, their presentation, the information that they want to share. They can be very closed off. And I think that's also a fear response. So you're afraid that you're not going to be taken seriously. You're afraid that you will be rejected. It makes sense. You're putting yourself out there. But It's a mistake because it prevents people from having that connection with you, and it prevents people from seeing a fuller picture of who you are and really getting to appreciate, oh, you're a leader in multiple dimensions, for instance, or
Mm,
you have expertise because of this varied background. Like maybe you've traveled the world really widely, and so you might not think it's directly relevant. Like, I'll just use myself as an example. I've traveled all over the world, and so you don't necessarily think, oh, executive brand strategist plus world traveler equals check. I don't know. But what that allows me is this cultural fluency, this understanding of being a fish out of water, and for really being adaptable and thinking on your feet quickly. And that helps me with clients who are in a variety of disciplines, and also with clients who are getting used to being in a new environment. You know, if you're comfortable in your authority in this one environment and now you're branching out and building your brand, then that helps. And so that helps people to decide, oh, yeah, she can help me. Or if they're already working with me, then they feel supported in a way that they might not with someone else because of this background that I have. And so when you lean too far into only wanting to talk about what's on your resume, then you're missing out in so much. And I'm sure you've seen that with your clients as well. Like, because I know you have, is it 10 story connectors? And
mm,
so you're touching on multiple areas of someone's life and not just in this one domain.
yeah.
So that's one thing. And then the other thing that I was thinking about is not unpicking. I guess it's like another way of saying the same thing. So undervaluing the professional experience that you do have, maybe, and saying like, oh no, I don't have it's not ready yet. A lot of what I hear is
Mm,
like, not ready yet. It's not, I don't know what the fully baked version would look like, but you're allowed to innovate. You're allowed to iterate in public, and people like to see that as well. So I'd say those are the two big things.
mm, yeah. So about the multifaceted person, yes, please share how you have different aspects in your life, because it's like I feel like, when it's like 2D, so you don't have volume in your personality, or you as you said before with the teacher, like you just see the teacher in the classroom, and then you don't imagine that they have a whole life outside of the school.
Yeah,
So the same with the business owners. If you are just showing this professional, performative persona, then you are missing out the opportunity to show all the other aspects that could be amazing for building the connection with people. But not
yeah,
just that, as you say, with you and your experience, like different cultures, adaptability, thinking outside the box,
yeah,
problem solving, all of that are
yeah,
incredible, valuable aspects that you bring with your to your clients as well. So for them to know that will help them have more context about you and how you have these skills and these how that those experiences are valuable for them in a different sense, and how each of us, we are a unique combination of our
yeah,
experiences, our personalities. So bringing that, so people understand more, like what what is like the different aspects that are valuable to know, especially. And I really resonate with this idea when people are pivoting
yeah,
and they feel they, especially if it's something like totally unrelated, they feel that they need to stop talking about what they were doing and now
yeah,
start this new thing that they are repositioning. And it's like,
yeah,
bring that back, because that's part of your threat, and it's bringing a
exactly.
lot of yeah, a lot of context about why you are doing that evolution, and bring people to understand why this process that you have been like going through, and how moving to that other new thing, that branch, is for a reason. Has been an evolution, and sharing that, I think, is a lot of value for people to understand, like your reasons why you are doing things. And that's really important, I believe, as a when I am in the other side trying to
Yeah,
find a person to help me, I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah, exactly. You want to know what it is. And if you don't know, if you can't find out, then you might be suspicious. Like, and then people will fill in for themselves the answers. And
Mm,
you don't know what they're going to fill in. And so that's why branding is also so important, because everyone is projecting their ideas about other people on everyone all of the time. Whether it's in private life, you're going to the food store or whatever you're doing, your ideas about another person's backstory are informing the way that you're interacting with them. And similarly, if someone is going to hire you for something and you had a pivot and the reasoning is totally innocuous or it makes complete sense personally, like anyone would understand, you're just maybe you don't want to share because you feel embarrassed or whatever the case may be, they're going to make up their own reasons. It's not just going to stay an empty vacuum. They're going to decide for themselves, and whether they're close to right or totally wrong, you have no way of knowing and no way of connecting to them. And so when you explain, and like you said, the thread, you can show the thread, the evolution, then they know what it is. And at least if they decide yes or no, you can be comfortable and confident that they did it with all the information that they needed. So always
Yeah.
share.
Yeah. And I think this is something that we all do. You do assumptions of what is there. So it's like if you are
Exactly.
really interested in people to know something,
Yeah.
be in control of the narrative in the sense of you are the one sharing the parts that makes sense for you. And I know that you, in your content, you have touched this topic about the privacy, how
Mm-hmm.
people might be like they are not sure about what to share and what not. And privacy
Mm-hmm.
is a really important topic for me as well because I am really
Mm-hmm.
a private person. But that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that you are sharing, because there are like the personal stories doesn't need to be private. So you can have your
Mm-hmm.
privacy, but still sharing
Mm-hmm.
who you are as a person, what is
Mm-hmm.
important to you, and why you decided to work in this specific topic,
Mm-hmm.
helping this
Mm-hmm.
specific group of people. So I feel that, in my opinion, like the boundaries is one of the situation where there can be a mistake in the sense of either way, like people that feel the pressure to
Mm-hmm.
overshare because it's like
Mm-hmm.
you need to share the vulnerable moments in your life and the turning points and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the other side, people who didn't don't share anything because they feel like, yeah, I don't want to share any of my private parts, like
Mm-hmm.
my privacy, I want to keep it to myself. And I feel like there are ways that you can decide. First, you are in control, you decide what to share and what not,
Yeah.
and then so boundaries. And then when you share it, you can decide the level of detail, like if you want to
Exactly.
go into detail, or if you don't want to, focus on the emotions and the lesson, because I feel that is like you don't share about the specific details of the moment, but if you share the lesson that those experience bring you, I feel that's important as well for building that connection.
Yeah, and there's so many ways you can go about doing this, honestly. Like, you can decide your boundaries based on someone's level of interaction with you. So if they're
Yeah.
just in your community, in your the wider audience, and they're engaging with your content for free, let's say, like someone's just tuned into this, it's available on the internet, and then the level of vulnerability that you might share could be a lot lower. Like, you don't get very vulnerable because it's just free access for anybody. But then if you have a group program or you work with people one on one, then you share a little bit deeper. They have you've mutually agreed to be in a relationship and to respect one another. And you're sharing in a way, perhaps it's to facilitate, like you're giving an example. And so you're willing to be more personal with someone who's a client or someone who's in this agreed space. Or they're coming to a workshop or a training or something. There's like more of a boundary. And then it could be even within that, like there are people that are in a group setting, but until you get to the one-on-one setting, then there's some things that you just don't share. And it's not like paid levels of access. It's just about agreed levels of mutual respect. And people in the public, I actually just had a lunch. I hosted a lunch last week with some local leaders, and I was asking them about their concerns about visibility, because that, as you're building a brand, like you're becoming more and more visible. And one woman said, people feel entitled to your life when you're visible. That's how she's experienced it. People just like coming at you. And there's truth to that. People do feel like, oh, you started sharing something. Not everybody necessarily, but then they jump on and they want all the things. And so you can protect yourself from that by deciding these are the boundaries at different levels of access. And last thing I'll say on this, again, I'll use myself as an example. So I've just moved continents, and I'm saying this publicly now, but I moved months ago. And the only people that I told months ago were the people that needed to know in terms professionally. So like my clients knew, I work with clients one on one, and I told them, you know, and they could see perhaps that like the background changed or whatever the case may be, but I wasn't ready to yet announce publicly that I'd moved until a few weeks ago. And then I'd processed some things and I knew what I wanted to share and how I was going to share that publicly and reflect on the move. And then I was ready. So that's, I think, a really good example of what I was saying in terms of levels of access and then your own personal boundaries, like you were saying. So,
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, and also something to add to that I totally agree is that it's not that all the time will be the same, because maybe
yeah,
now you are in the situation like, yeah, I want to share this publicly, and before you were just sharing with the people that you feel like they need to know about this, but
yeah,
maybe in the future you process this information and you think about, okay, there is a lesson here that I
yeah,
am now interested in sharing it more
exactly.
publicly,
Yeah,
or not, or it's something that, yeah, I am not sharing about this because it's not relevant anymore, or there are personal lessons there, but this is not something that I am willing to share at the moment. So again, this idea of evolution, that
yeah,
things can change and can be different in different moments, and also in different environments. I tend to explain a similar of what you said about in different circles. Like if you are
yeah,
in your email, maybe there you share a bit more, and then if you are
exactly,
in the onboarding processes, there you want to create this safe space and you share a bit
exactly.
more. So you can use that, and one of the parts that I feel more important, this is not just personal brand story, but even like personal brand strategy in general, like the core foundations, is like when you have clarity on your strategy,
Yeah,
it's more easy to be clear about boundaries, about you being in control, so you have more confidence in how you are showing up for your business, what makes sense to share, what is your messaging. So I feel there are more like clarity when you work on that, in the sense of, you know why you are sharing this story, you know why you are doing a certain thing in your communication, because you have been thinking about. And
yeah,
sometimes people feel like strategy is kind of, they connect strategic with manipulative or something like that, and I
hmm,
always like to connect with intention. It's like
mm,
you are intentional about how you share your story, about with elements of your authority are
hmm,
you highlighting, how you're using that.
hmm,
So yeah.
yeah. I think being open to change, to evolution is key, and understanding that you can change is key. It's similar, but not quite the same. So, yeah, with my clients, you know, you have a brand, and I say all the time that it's a living thing. So, the brand that you create today is going to serve you for a long time because it's an element of it will serve you maybe forever because it's core to who you are and the mission that you're on. But as your life experience changes, or maybe your services pivot, or something can happen, you become more of an expert in the field. And so then your brand will evolve and you have to allow that to happen. And so you don't have to hold on so tightly. It's freeing in the moment. You don't have to hold on so tightly to this is, I have to get it absolutely right at this moment, because you are allowed to grow. Your brand is allowed to grow. And in terms of your stories, what I like to say as well is that, okay, maybe right now this isn't what you want to share, but be open to the idea that in the future you might want to share it. Or like you were talking about a lesson, maybe you share it in one form now. You said it's not always the same. You share this lesson in one form now, and then you reflect and you realize, oh, this is what I learned and this is how it's relevant. And so I want to share it again from a whole new angle. You've heard this story, but you've never heard it like this before. And this is why I'm telling it now. And so things can be more than one thing at a time. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and I feel that is connecting back to the idea of the multifaceted person that we are. It's like there could be things like now is two things can be true at the same time, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we feel like need to be this or the other side of the coin, and it's like no, there are sometimes these a lot of gray tones in the middle. So it's like
Yeah.
be open to that as well. I am curious about your thoughts. Something really specific. You know how some people might have some experience that is like something that is going to help them to share their authority because they have a lot of expertise around a certain topic.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they have some confidentiality issues, so they cannot share. I am thinking about specific client that they had.
Mm.
She has a lot of experience working in another certification program, and she has worked with hundreds of people, but she cannot mention where
Mm-hmm.
or the details about the specific program because this confidentiality. But
Mm-hmm.
I was telling her, like, you don't share the details or any information there, but mentioning that you have worked with thousands of people related to this topic is something important, even if you are not showing like the logos or talking about the
Mm-hmm.
names or anything like that, any detail, of course, but just sharing about making people understand that you have all this experience is
Mm-hmm.
helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you have been in some kind of similar situation, because I would love to know what will be your approach or how you will handle a situation like that.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I'd offer to this client and anyone who's in a similar situation that's listening is that this could be an incredible opportunity for your positioning, because people might feel restricted or hamstrung, like, oh, I did all this great work, but I can't share because it was in another container. I had a client like that recently. She's working with a much bigger, better known person and serving their clients, helping their community to grow, but can't necessarily rely on that. You can still, people love exclusivity. And if you're like with my clients, they're executives, they're senior leaders. And so if you can say, oh, well, I worked with these people, and you can't say why. I mean, you don't have to say it in a salacious way necessarily, but people love to see that and to know that, and it makes them wonder, and the mystery, the intrigue that it adds to your brand is like, oh, I wonder where it was. And so it doesn't have to be a bad thing. First of all,
Mm,
it can be a good thing because it can add these elements of intrigue and exclusivity. And then just what you said about, you don't have to share, you can share what you can say about it. And the way that it helps your positioning is depending on your clients, depending on the people that you want to serve, they see that as a benefit. So let's say you are a celebrity something, or you want to work with celebrity clients, and you can say that you have a history of working with this kind of person or with exclusive people, and so they can trust you to keep your NDA private. So actually, this
mm,
just reminds me of my sister. She is a nanny to high net worth and ultra high net worth clients, and I don't know who they are because she can't tell me. um, but I do know that she works with this kind of clientele, and then it perpetuates. She's able to work with more of this kind of clientele, and people trust her, not just in this one arena, like, but they'll trust her in other arenas as well. It's like, oh,
yeah.
well, you've dealt with this in this space. This is transferable. This is relatable. Or my clients who are judges and lawyers, then they can say, okay, they can't tell you the details of cases because that's against their code of ethics. But then okay, well, they must be fair. Or this is the
Mm,
record of cases. They must be diligent. They must be hardworking. There's lots of people can glean from you, and then that's how it helps with your positioning. So maybe in your field you want to be known as fair, or you want to be known as high trust, high integrity, like white glove service. And so when you can demonstrate whatever aspect, the characteristic that you need to share, and highlight the thing that positions you as this person, then it makes it more valuable. So definitely don't think of it as a restraint, as a restriction against you. It can be even better than you saying who it was because then they might get distracted, like, oh, they worked for Coca-Cola, wow, instead of thinking about, oh no, she is really skilled at this because she's helped 1,000 people.
mm. Yeah, yeah, I really like that idea, and especially as you said in your with your sister sample, this idea of how transferable is, like how she is able to do this like confidentiality in this high trust environment, and that's going to
Mm-hmm.
be related to other stuff. So
Yeah.
100%. And it's like
Yeah.
they are trusting as a nanny, so it's not a small deal, so it's like really
Exactly.
high
Exactly.
important. Yes, of course. um I am curious about, for someone that they have clarity in their story, what would you say could be the next step to turn into results and influence, so they have
Yeah.
a bigger impact?
Yeah. So there are a few things that you can think of. Clarity, like you were saying, it's the starting point. It's so important. It makes all of your future decisions easier. And so when you know what your story is, you think, okay, how does this relate to my brand pillars? Like the key things that everybody needs to know about my brand. How then does my story illustrate these pillars? And then your strategy of how you're going to weave that through with your messaging. So, are you on social media? Are you sending emails? How is your client onboarding experience? And so then using your stories to build relationships and to reinforce the message that you want according to the most important elements of your brand. So, we were just talking about people in high trust positions. And so you want to reinforce for people, yes, you're in a high trust environment and you can share this different stories or maybe the same story in slightly different ways, levels of depth, for instance, in your brand pillars. And another thing that you can do is to weave it in with your intellectual property, as we were saying, so that
Mhm.
it's memorable. And so I would write down, okay, these are my philosophies on the subject. This is what I think, and then these are the stories that I have, and where are their connections? How do they help one another? How do they help me to connect? And then once you have those identified, the next time you're discussing your philosophy or you're leading something or you're working with a client, then you know, oh, this is a story that I can share in this moment. And you just feel better equipped. So, on the one hand, when you're thinking on the fly, when you're working with new people, let's say, or you're doing something for the first time, then you're going to reach for what's in your back pocket and you're going to think of new things at the same time. But when you know, okay, these ones I can be certain are going to work for me because I've already thought through this story is the best illustrator that I have, then you tell that. And repetition, as I think I said at the beginning of this conversation, is so important with brands because you might get tired of saying the same thing over and over, but your audience, they love it and it helps it to stick. And so if you have a story that you tell over and over again, they're like, oh yeah, Reme always explains it this way, and I can see, or your client as a little girl who was building new things. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, and then this is how I use it in this environment. And so it's really about using their assets, using the tools
Yes.
that you have to help you to reach more people and to grow your audience and to reinforce, to refine the message that you want to share with them.
Hmm. Yeah, I love this idea of reinforcing, and especially in the repetition, because I feel like, first of all, this is one of the reasons why I approach this personal brand story into the meaningful moments instead of just one big, because then you have this variety of stories. But
Yeah,
then also even sharing the same story in different ways, because you
yeah,
can start by talking about the framework or the concepts and or the benefit that you bring with your work, and then using a bridge to talk about this story and illustrate that benefit in a more deep level. Or you can go in the other way around, starting with the story and then bringing the topic and ge- sharing that connection, how they are working together. So I feel that having clarity in both, like as you say, they are assets to your business. Having that clarity is like having like the control in the sense of why you are sharing
yeah,
those,
yeah.
where you are deciding to share those, and how you are doing, so how is going to help you to have a bigger impact. So absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap up, because I feel like we have so many different things that we can keep talking about. But I don't know, we maybe there are something specific that we didn't cover and you would like to highlight, feel free to do so now.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been such an interesting conversation. I think we really covered a lot. It was about using your stories to connect with your audience and to be memorable, to reinforce points. And I think one thing that I would say that I see with people that come to me is that just that same point about evolution and not being afraid to reinvent yourself or to try something new. And sometimes your story is what leads you there. So whether like maybe you're working with Reme and you discover, oh yeah, I never thought about this thing in this way before and I never made this connection, and oh, okay, this makes this new step that I want to take seem more meaningful, or the possibilities are even bigger. And so I would encourage you to lean into that, and then to use that to your advantage because it's what helps you to um, translate for people what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. And yeah, so brands are living things. They're evolving and you're evolving, and the things you do plant a stake in the ground. This is what I'm going to stand for, and this is how I want to be perceived. And at the same time, it can change, as we were saying. So those are the things that I want people to remember when they think about storytelling and being visible and being a brand.
Mm, yeah, love that. Yeah, I love when people say like I haven't thought of that way, but makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense. It's like, oh yes, I
yeah.
love
It's
that
such a good
moment.
moment.
Yeah. Okay, so just to finish, like a way to summarize the connection between personal brand story and authority for leaders. How will you summarize that connection?
Yeah. Um, it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning about your story helping you to be a better leader. So you're a
Mm-hmm.
better leader because you are shown as a whole person, a holistic person to your audience, to your clients. They see you as not just, and it might, I can see why it might seem a little nerve wracking, a little bit scary because they don't, you can hide behind your professionalism, but it's better to be human and to be seen as human. So it helps you to be a better leader in terms of connecting. It helps you to be a better leader in terms of explaining. So when you want to share your philosophy, your reasoning, your particular approach, your methodology, rather than like those are some dry words on their own. But if you have stories to back them up, then people can understand, okay, this is why we're doing it this way. This is why you're leading me in this direction. And then you have more buy in. And so then your team is working better, or your clients are getting better results because they are fully trusting you. And that's another reason why your stories are so important when you're a leader, is because you need trust. People aren't leading, you're leading a group of people and they're not going to follow you if they don't trust you. And so when you can share a story, then they can trust this is someone that I want to follow, or this is why I'm going to follow. And you're, as a leader, you are being bold. You're at the front. You are going first. You are the one that's experimenting, and it's your responsibility depending on the outcomes. And so I'd say for yourself as well, stories help you to trust yourself. They're like, okay, yeah, I am this person. I can do this thing, or I've done it before, and I'm going to apply these tools in this context. So they help you to better lead yourself, and they help you to lead your people, because they're like, okay, even if I don't fully understand this thing right now, for all of these reasons, these stories that she's told, these ways that she's explained herself, I believe that she's going to lead me in the place that I want to go. And so they will continue to follow you.
Mm, yeah, I love what you say about the idea of how even having clarity in that can bring you a lot of not just others trusting you, but also yourself trusting, especially because both of us we work a lot with people in transitions in their
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
So in that moment, it's so important this reinforcement, like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I have been done things and makes sense that I'm now doing this next step. So for me, I will use like the to as a summary. I feel like recognition and credibility, because both your personal brand story and sharing those aspects of you as a
Mm,
the authority of you as a leader, I feel that both is like helping you position
yeah,
this like who you are as an expert,
definitely.
but
Yeah,
also bringing that credibility aspect, like again going back to the trust, because it's
yeah,
like we need to trust each other to decide to keep going further in the relationship, and that also
exactly.
applies to business, I believe.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you so much. Please share with us where people can find you. Of course, the links will be out there, but just if you want to point them to a specific direction.
Yeah. So you can, my legal name is Mishevich. So I think the easiest thing to do to connect with me on LinkedIn, which is where I'm the most active, is to, yeah, send me a connection request. I'd love to connect with you and to hear what you got out of this conversation, how it was helpful for you. I'm also on Instagram at Gabrielle Gweneth, and I'm hosting a masterclass in a couple of weeks called Accomplished to Iconic. It's especially for you if you feel nervous about your boundaries and being visible and you're not really sure what to share. And so it's going to help you to figure out, okay, this is how I can move to that next level of elevating my brand, elevating my visibility without completely like blowing past all of my boundaries and without having to be on social media 24/7. It's really about leading on how people can trust you and the things that you have to offer, your credibility that you have to offer, and being strategic. As Reme was saying, it's not about manipulating people, it's about making thoughtful decisions, considered decisions. And so I'd love to have you at the masterclass. If you go to my website, which will be linked below, you will be able to sign up in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Amazing. So thanks again. Just yeah, I would love for people to come back to us and share about what they learn, or what is a thought that they have gone thanks to this conversation. So this has been a pleasure. Thank you again, and